Hi, I'm Nia DaCosta, the director and co-writer of Candyman. Juneteenth, I think, for me, especially last year, I was thinking a lot about the duality of the Black experience in America. At once, it's a place of this great hope, which I think is what Juneteenth represents in one way. It's a celebration of us, of life, of freedom, of possibility. On the other side, it's incredibly difficult and there's a lot of pain, and they kind of walk hand in hand.
I just moved in around the corner. I feel really connected to this neighborhood, Cabrini Green. It was the projects.
And I think that's something about this film as well. There's still this sort of bittersweet hope. I started working on the film winter of 2019. I mean, so much changed in that time. You know, we had the pandemic happen. We had the really amazing show of political and cultural and emotional force. And throughout the making of the film, the thing that I always came back to was the truth of the pain that was at the center of the story of Candyman. In the real world, we create monsters of men all the time. People are murdered, they become either saints or they're vilified.
Candyman. Candyman.
And so throughout the last year and a half, it was always coming back to that truth. Horror is a really effective tool when it comes to telling stories about things that impact us on a social level. The very function of it is to make you uncomfortable. And I think if that discomfort is attached to explorations of race or gender, you have to then reconcile your feelings about race and gender. But also, this movie is about community. I don't think you should watch it alone. It's important in a way to not have to hold it by yourself. Horror is just better in a room full of people who are also freaking out.
He had a purpose for you.
You should say his name. I dare you.
Candyman.
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 I've always been fascinated with urban legends. Candyman is the patron saint of the urban legend.
You guys want to hear a scary story?
No.
Candyman was a real sort of urban legend when I was growing up. It wasn't just attached to the movie. For us, Candyman was some demon ghost man killing people in the projects.
Say his name. I dare you.
We didn't have a black Freddy. We didn't have a black Jason. It felt important that this Candyman be told from a black perspective.
Something's happening to me.
Candyman is so perennial. We're talking about the cycles of violence and how history repeats itself and how we collectively process trauma through stories. It's always a time to tell a story like Candyman, which is the big tragedy of the tale in the first place. The art within Candyman is definitely about devolution to mirror his psychological descent.
I play the character Anthony McCoy, a young, new, flashy artist looking for inspiration.
It seemed critical that there was actual artists in the film and works that had social relevancy.
It was really important to give my best work as artist because this was a really important project.
We really want to show his early work and then the work that he makes in the film and how he's being changed not only through his own search and journey, but also maybe by demon ghosts.
It was a very interesting and fun process to step into the mind of another person and kind of take on the character and become that painter.
I had a lot of material to actually draw from to think through what it is I could actually offer that they wanted for the film.
Much like the Candyman ghost, his ambition lies in becoming eternal.
Say his name. I dare you.
My practice and my process is a little strange, and maybe they thought it would fit in lockstep with the film that they were making. It was important for me to be able to incorporate actual ambient sound from the locations sonically into the score. I thought was necessary. I have quite a few layers that I'd like to incorporate into the body of the score so that the score and the sound live as a character in the film, which is something that's really important for me.
Candyman.
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 The original Candyman, written and directed by Bernard Rose, based on a story by Clive Barker, is one of my favorites. It's a very influential movie for me. Mainly because I believe it came out in 1992, so I would have been like 13. And I was a horror fan, and we didn't have a black Freddy. We didn't have a black Jason. We identified with Freddy and Jason. But when Candyman came along, it felt very daring, and it felt very cathartic. and it was terrifying. So this was one of the movies that told me we can that Black people can be in horror, even though there are many examples of Black people in horror movies. This was one for me that felt particularly badass.
Green and Green. It was the project's affordable housing that had a particularly bad reputation.
You would never know.
Translation, white people built a ghetto and then erased it when they realized they built a ghetto. Ooh, no offense.
None taken.
I'm very interested in terms of like stories about Black trauma and how it affects us, how we walk around with it, and how we're trying to seek some sort of, I don't know, retribution, trying to seek some I don't know, something to help us continue to walk tall, you know? So I think that he's searching, and Burke is a character that's been waiting for his opportunity to say you can never forget the names of those that have been killed. So I think very much so, it's very much indicative of what we are saying the names of, you know, Philando Castile, you know, you name it. Black men struck down in our community, but community members and leaders, you name it. And how important it is to remember that, to not gloss over it, but you have to remember that in order to move forward.
And something leaves a stain. Even if you think you washed it out, it's still there. You can feel it, a thinning deep in the fabric. This neighborhood got caught in a loop.
I kept Anthony very close to myself. You know, I'm an artist, I'm sensitive, I'm very ambitious, and I know what it's like to want to be hot one moment and to kind of cool off and to try to create another moment, to be looking for something, you know. I also know what it's like to be a newcomer in a place and to be searching for inspiration. And so I really leaned into those aspects of myself, of what it's like to be, to feel displaced, and what it's like to be ambitious, and also to allow curiosity to sort of get me into a lot of trouble. You know, when Anthony wanders out into Cabrini Green and decides to hop the fence and to go after something and to, you know, see what's on the other side of the fence, so to speak. You know, that's very much like my own personality, like my own nature. So it's been fun kind of searching into myself and really letting my softer, maybe more sensitive, curious sides play out on camera. I think I'm very, very similar to the artist that Anthony is.
Basically, you're stopping him. Okay. The piece speaks for itself. It speaks all right.
Yeah. See, I like going into the mirror. Yeah, into the mirror is so good. Like, he's really selling it.
What I really love about what this film does, the updated Say My Name version of it, is that it really, like the original, it talks about so many topical, the politic of the day, the politic in terms of gentrification, what it means to be an artist, what it means to have a place in the world. You know, Candyman is driven by his need for his story to be told. And so I think all those things resonate with us as an audience, and I think it's just a good show. So people want to see more of it and see what has happened.
The original film, Helen, is a bit of the, you know, played expertly by Virginia Madsen, by the way. Helen Lyle is a bit of a fish out of water, to say the least, in the Cabrini Green area, and a lot is focused on her fear and therefore the audience's fear of this space, of this Black space. Well, that Cabrini Green has been torn down and is fairly gentrified now. And the story that resonated to me now is the story of my fear of the white space, and to be able to explore the quote unquote mirror image or the flip of the first one, to me was a point that made the project worthy in itself, to see the full realization of that, the conversation that this movie is.
Guys, he was literally like, I summoned Candyman, and I'm like, no!
Candyman ain't real!
I think Jordan has tapped into something that is so true and honest by going through the lens of genre and going through the lens of horror. In order for us to tell our stories, in order for people to listen, in order for people to be entertained as well, it's like you got to give a little spoonful of sugar. You know, you can't just, you know, I think he's why it's so popular and why he's so committed to this genre, because I think he finds it's a very significant way to tell our stories that's impactful.
It's not just about entertainment value, it's also about making something that's going to be important, making something that's going to cause you to think and cause you to have conversations, similarly to the way I guess Anthony would like for his art to speak to the world. When I'm working with Jordan, I always feel taken care of, and I know that we're trying to do something that's going to be classy, that's going to really stand the test of time, and that's going to be important to what's in the zeitgeist right now.